Coming to you live from our studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is the A1 Trading Daily Show. Whether markets are rising or falling, we're here to keep you up to date with the latest market news. Join us as we trade currencies, commodities, and indices live, Monday through Friday.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another A1 Trading Show live here in the markets. I am joined, as we usually are, by the weatherman, aka the news reporter, Mr. James. Hey, James, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. Yeah, we had a slight drizzling of PMI news already come out earlier today, with some more scattered showers of PMI still to come here in a little bit, actually.
Yes, so we had flash manufacturing PMI numbers coming out here in 15 minutes. We also had PMI numbers coming out here in Europe and the UK. Earlier this morning, of course, James and I were asleep during this time. Hopefully you were asleep, James, unless you were up really early.
Yes, no, I was definitely asleep during this time.
Yeah, so we had European, so German flash manufacturing PMI came out slightly less than expected. Services PMI came out just slightly above expectations there. And then for the UK, we had manufacturing PMI less than, and services as well coming in less than. So turn our attention here in the next 15 minutes to the US, which is up next at the plate to see what manufacturing and services PMI look like here. Could possibly cause some volatility, hence why it is marked here in red. Outside of today's news, James, what's next? Well, I guess we also have New Zealand later on. What's, I guess, the next things to pay attention to?
So nothing else going on really today besides that New Zealand news that's going to be happening way later on over here in the East Coast. That'll be happening at 10 p.m. So way later on in the day, we'll get the New Zealand monetary policy statement. But tomorrow, we've got an interesting day. Tomorrow, we've got a pretty big day. We have, first, we're going to have UK CPI numbers on the pound, as well as the Bank of England's Governor Andrew Bailey is going to hold a press conference sometime after that CPI news. But the big one that is probably going to be the most volatile news event of the week is going to be the FOMC meeting minutes happening at 2 p.m. Eastern here in the U.S. That is where the Fed releases their detailed report about the most recent interest rate decision. And so you'll get to learn a little bit more about what went, all the different factors that went into that, and that causes typically a lot of volatility in the market as well. So that'll be a special stream that we're doing covering FOMC meeting minutes. So we won't be here in the morning. We're going to be doing it in the afternoon. So don't be looking for us in the morning. We'll be covering FOMC meeting minutes tomorrow afternoon.
That's right. So our normal show here, we usually get started. This is a normal day, 9:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern. Our schedule is all over the place, to be completely honest with you, because when big news comes out, we try and be there and present to report it with you guys. And as James mentioned, tomorrow we will be doing the Fed meeting minutes event, which should be market moving for sure. So we will be there.
And Julie and I have actually started posting the live stream schedule different places, because each week, depending on what the news is, you know, we try and cover the news live when we can. So if you go to the A1 Trading Twitter account, it is posted there. It is also posted on the YouTube community tab. So there's two different places that you can find the live stream schedule. There we go. If you click on that, that's our schedule for this week. So tomorrow, Wednesday, will be 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, of course. And then Thursday and Friday, we have some earlier news events in the morning, and we'll have 8:15 start times for those.
Perfect. Yep. So there you go, guys. Screenshot it if you want, or just follow us on Twitter or on the A1 Trading YouTube channel. We've got those posted up for you guys to win the events
as well. Mm-hmm.
So there you go. All right, James, thank you as always for the update on the news. I think it's time we jump into the market and see what's going on. All right. Catch you next time. All right, guys, and we are taking a look at the charts now. Yeah, and make sure if you guys don't already follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at A1 Trading if you want updates on what is coming on the live stream. Some of you guys like to keep tabs on live stream timing so that you don't miss anything. Another great way to do that, guys, is that if you just hit the thumbs up button and also subscribe with notifications turned on to whether you're watching the A1 Trading YouTube channel or Trader Nick channel, either one, just turn on notifications. You'll keep tabs on that. The dollar giving back some room here. As we get started here today, you can see resistance coming into the chart here and showing its strength. Dollar just briefly poking up into the 103.65 level and now finding some sell pressure. Dollar has been on a tear, so it's not too surprising that we're seeing a little bit of give back now, right? However, I don't know that I would be necessarily shorting the dollar off of this push. Now, I mentioned I am pretty dollar bearish, but even when I'm bearish something, I still need to see signs of weakness. And what we can see here is that, the dollar has been really quite to the contrary. It's been very strong, right? We've seen higher lows come into this market. And for me to really get interested on the short side of the dollar, I would need to see failure, right? And what I mean failure is you've got this upward trend. We're hitting a level of resistance. Is this going to be a double top? I think it's too soon to tell because very quickly, and again, many of us have probably been here where you think, hey, this chart looks like it's double topping. And what does it do? It blows through the highs and continues its march north, right? So I'm not necessarily looking to short the dollar as it rallies here as it hits resistance here this morning. What I'm looking for, if I'm going to short the dollar, what I've got to see is weakness at a significant level. So let's say we come down to this trend line here and we actually start breaking support, meaning we put in some sort of lower low, right? A failure to make a higher high. So there hasn't been a higher high yet. At least not one of substantial meaning, right? We briefly traded above the previous highs. We didn't see a significant strong higher high. So we have not seen that. The question now, though, will be, can we actually, in fact, get a lower low? Can we get a breakout to the downside? And that's going to be where I think possibly you start to see some sell pressure come into the US dollar. But until we see that, I'm not going to assume this is the top. So we're going to take a look at lots of different charts here today, starting with the dollar as we usually do to get an eye on, of course, the world's most traded instrument, that US dollar. As we continue to hear news about the debt ceiling situation and concerns there, the dollar continues to stay high on our watch list there. So let's continue to take a look at some more charts here. In terms of the dollar, a quick look at the euro. How are things trading with the euro? And I woke up this morning and I saw the euro had traded all the way back down to the lows, which is an impressive sell-off here to happen so quickly, right? We came up and I thought, in my view, we were going to make a stab at that 61.8% retracement. We didn't quite get there before. We didn't even make it there before price was selling off yet again with all this dollar strength. Again, I am not dollar bullish, but I'm just not shorting until I see evidence that weakness is occurring. Gold is flying. Let's take a look at gold here now. Taking a look at gold. It is moving up. I wouldn't say it's flying because, again, well, it depends which time frame you're on, right? If you're looking at the 5-minute, yeah, gold is a monster right now. But if you're looking at it from, a swing trader's perspective, you're still trading in a very strong downward trend, I would warn. So be very cautious as you go into today's trading. Not to get overly bullish on gold. We are still trading lower. We are still under $2,000. And again, this is coming from a gold bull. I want gold to run. I would love to trade it higher. It's just a matter of whether or not it can actually start breaking structure. So for the bulls out there, right? If you're trading the gold market, what do we need to see? For me, the bare minimum to get me interested would be breakouts at 1980, right? Bare minimum. If we're talking price action, right now, this downward structure is just very, very strong. I don't necessarily think that if we get up to 1980, we're going to blow through it, right? I think that might be headwind for the market. The bigger question will be, can we actually break out? And if we do, then maybe we have something to play with on the gold side. But for me right now, nothing there. Let's take a quick look at oil. I am actually long oil And I'll show you guys that in just a second. I picked up a energy position. Give me 1 second here. Let me just make sure everything is logged in. So we're going to go to my position here. So this is a energy position that I have. Now, this is not exclusively oil, but it is it's an energy ETF that I hold right now. So I'm long energy and long biased on oil. I have an oil trade open myself as well. So I'm looking at oil. I'm looking at energy, and I'm pretty bullish on it. We'll see if we can capture a little bit more upside on this one going forward. But what I'm looking for when talking about oil specifically is we've hit this level of support. It's kind of an ugly breakout, right? You can see not necessarily did we just go full on bullish, but we did in fact break this downward structure, right? So we broke out here and now we've traded sideways. I picked it up on a pullback and now it's trading nicely. We'll see. The big question will be, can we actually get a breakout of some key resistance, right? So what I'm looking for on the oil market is, can we get something like this? Perhaps even in that situation, I could add to my trade on the long side. So oil, I am also bullish on. We'll see if we can find something more to talk about if this materializes into a breakout to the high side. Let's take a look at that NASDAQ, which I believe is giving back some gains here, trading up to at one point 13,923. Just a monster move here. Just does not want to quit, and looks like it's it's looking like it might be due for a pullback. In my honest take here, you need a vacation, Nick. I will take a vacation later on this summer. I think I'm going to the beach. It's going to be very nice. You like the shirt? Oh yeah, check out the shirt, guys. We can go full screen for a split second. I'll show you just to interrupt this market trading session. We got some new shirts here in the office. The A1 Trading Company shirt. We had that designed. It's really cool. And check it out. Chandler's got one as well. We can bring him in. Look, Chandler's got his shirt. We got a behind the scenes as well. Everybody's got their shirts, and they're actually really comfortable. So we're not selling these, but maybe we should in case anybody wants a shirt. But they're actually so comfortable. I think we paid like, I don't know, maybe $20 a piece or something like that. So they were not bad. But yeah, love the shirts. Yeah, thank you. It's cool. I like the shirts as well. Yeah, so let's keep going here for a moment, guys. I do want to cover a couple charts here before too long. So let me see if we can get some things started. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the dollar pairs because we have talked about this dollar strength. And if I was to sell one, it's going to have to be the Aussie dollar, but it's not at a level that I can do so. But there is a case to be made here for the Aussie dollar on the short side. Now, why are we on the short side of this stuff? Well, COT data looks incredibly bearish for the Aussie. Retail sentiment, retail is buying the Australian dollar. Seasonal trends point to downward pressure. You can see in this case on our watch list tab, every indication that we study on the EDGEFINDER is pointing to downside on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So let's actually go look at that individual chart here for a second. Of course, with the EDGEFINDER, you guys can pull up any charts that you want, whether you're trading the pound, the euro. For those of you guys who have it, feel free to spend some time on this, but you can go through. We actually just added even Bitcoin to this. Our design team has been working really hard on getting new charts added. And here's a look at the Australian dollar. So Australian dollar, and also we need to get this added to all the charts. We have upcoming events and how impactful they can be. Of course, we have PMI numbers here in just a second. Let me actually switch views here for a moment. We've got about 30 seconds before, what is it? It's manufacturing and services PMI here in the United States. Let me make sure that I've got that pulled up correctly. Yes, we've got about 20 seconds here, guys, until manufacturing PMI and services PMI come out for the United States. Could be market moving, so we will have coverage for you there and see how things are going with that. Again, let's see if that does anything to the dollar here this morning. Usually, it's not a huge mover, but sometimes it can surprise you. It's just one of those things. So let's see, numbers coming out. The dollar is unchanged so far. Dollar taking a little bit of a hit, but really nothing too substantial. PMI numbers pending. We have not yet gotten them, so potentially still some movement could come out of this. And when the numbers drop, you will usually know if there's any sudden movement. Just don't blink. Sometimes it can, sometimes again, it'll come out and the numbers are not impressive. So there we go. We do have numbers. So services came out higher than expected at 55.1. Manufacturing shrank, showing 48.5 under that 50 mark. Of course, when it comes to PMI numbers, way to read this is above 50 indicates industry expansion, below indicates contraction. So we're seeing some contraction in the manufacturing area. We're seeing expansion in the services PMI. PMI, of course, this is the level of diffusion index based on surveyed purchasing managers in the services industry. So it's an idea of, hey, what are managers purchasing? How aggressively are they purchasing right now? In the services area, we see some expansion. In the manufacturing, we see decline. And manufacturing might be things as simple as, I don't know, washing machines or something like that, like industrial purchases for a manufacturing thing, right? So if we see contraction there, but then we also see increases in the services, it's a bit of a give and take. It would be more market moving if both were red or both were green. So I'm not seeing too much volatility there. Anyways, let's go back quickly to this AUD USD concept. So I am bearish on the Australian dollar here, and we'll keep tabs on this one here. One thing I would say is that if it breaks through the lows, if the dollar is going to get that strong, if we're able to break through support, it could be an interesting one to watch. Something like this, break and retest 66.10 could be something of interest. In a moment, I think we're going to get Frank and Tom to join us. But quickly, before we do that, let's run a quick commercial break, and then we will jump in with Tom and Frank. I don't see him on the back end, but maybe Frank will join us soon. And with that, let's roll a quick commercial break to thank our sponsors.
Attention A1 Trading Show fans, if you're interested in getting free access to the EDGEFINDER or our premium trade alerts, listen up. For a limited time, our show's partnered broker 8cap is giving out free access to our products when you sign up for a new trading account with them. If you already have a broker, you may want to consider switching to 8cap because of their low trading costs, a wide range of trading assets, and their amazing customer support. If you'd like to get access to our software and Discord server for free, click the link being dropped in the chat right now and ask one of our team members for more information. Don't miss your chance for free products and an award-winning broker. Now back to the A1 Trading Show.
All right, and we are back with Tom from Simply Forex. Hey Tom, how are you?
Yeah, morning Nick. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, and good to have you back on the show as always. So I was just talking before the break. I was looking at some dollar pairs. We just had some news come out, manufacturing and services PMI, and it seems like the dollar is tagging up against a level of resistance here this morning. Tom, what are your thoughts right now on the dollar? Are you watching any dollar pairs?
Yes, I'm looking at Aussie dollar, US dollar short, as you were, Nick, and New Zealand dollar, Aussie dollar short. Aussie dollar, New Zealand US dollar. So yeah, Aussie dollar, US dollar has been coming down nicely. I still think it has a little bit more room to the downside, potentially to this grey zone down here. Because what I'm seeing, guys, is a sort of ranging market on the day chart. Okay, so I've still got some room on Aussie dollar, US dollar, like I say, back down to these lows here. If we take a quick look at the weekly chart, you can see that range a little bit more clearly. Yeah, so price has been coming down in a downtrend, and then it's just been ranging between these two levels. Okay, this is the weekly chart. So yeah, still a bit more room on Aussie dollar, US dollar to the downside. And also New Zealand US dollar is a pretty much a very similar trade. So If we start with a weekly chart, you can see, price was clearly in an uptrend, and then it didn't make higher highs. This is always a red flag that, structure could be changing. And then sure enough, price breaks down. Once we get lower lows, again, it's just been ranging. And I still think this one in particular has more room to move into, back down to these last lows and complete the range. So if any US dollar pairs, I like New Zealand US dollar because of the room it has to move into.
Fair enough. Yeah. And to add to your concept there, I want to also talk for just a moment here about the commitment of traders data, latest stuff here in terms of some of the pairs that we're talking about, especially some of the Pacific currencies, right? New Zealand, Australia, and Japan, of course. I want to show you something kind of interesting here, and to everybody in the audience as well. Tom and I are both talking a little bit about the Australian dollar as well as the Kiwi against the dollar. And I find that this divergence is really interesting. So for newer traders in the audience or newer people to the stream, we track pretty closely here on the show the commitment of traders data. We look at what institutional money is buying and selling. And to Tom's point, talking a little bit about sell side interest on the Australian dollar and the Kiwi dollar, what you'll notice here is that when we look at the positioning of these two assets in terms of what professional level traders are doing, this is not educated guesses or any opinions. This is statistically what we have from the CFTC's Commitment of Traders report. We can see the positioning of institutional traders using this report, and our software visualizes that for us. So we're looking at the Australian dollar, and to Tom's point, we have just under a 69 to 31% ratio here on the Australian dollar in favor of the short side. And what that means is that we've taken in all of the different positionings and we've simplified it into a percentage basis. That's a pretty strong short bias by institutional level traders, and a very minority of institutional money are betting on the long side of the Australian dollar. But then you flip it around, the 65% on the long side of the dollar looks kind of interesting here. So I'd like to also bring in Frank. He's in the back room now. We can bring in Frank. Hey Frank, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up?
You've made it to
Morning,
the show.
Frank.
Hey Tom, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
So Frank, we were just talking a little bit about you heard me talking about the Australian dollar, the Kiwi dollar. Of course, Tom also looking at possible short ideas on the Aussie and the Kiwi dollar against the US dollar specifically. What are we looking at here on the COT data? Break this down here a little further for us. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, so nothing promising in my opinion. I'm not really looking at COT when it comes to Kiwi and Aussie. I like yen short. I'm pretty sure Kiwi, the demand is very mixed, but I've been looking at potential long setups on that because of the rate expectations for later today. I think they're forecasted to have like one more hike after this one, take it to I think it was 5.6% and then hold it there for the remainder of the year. So I'm kind of looking at Kiwi strength into this week, but when it comes to AUD and USD, I'm not very sure. The smart money they're decreasing their positions overall to the long side and upping the shorts. Kiwi is just very mixed. I'd say net short overall or net long overall. AUD is net short overall. So very, very strange activity this week. I'm not really sure how to interpret that, but all I can go off is maybe some momentum plays for the interest rates regarding Kiwi, and so maybe Kiwi yen would be a potential long play.
We'll have to take a closer look at the technicals in just a moment. And for some of you guys in the audience who are asking where you can get access to this data, it is a it is a product, our company, A1 Trading, we build software tools. We have a development team here in Atlanta, Georgia. If you guys would like to try out the product, we do offer tours of the tool where you can get all the information for that. Click this link. It's going to direct you to a direct message center where you can ask a support rep to get you access to this tool so that you can play around with the COT data. So right now in the chat, there's a link to click right here. So click that link, and then that'll pop open a live chat where you can have a conversation with a support rep and get your hands on this software to try it out for free. So there you go. That's how you can find out more about it if you're interested. So let's go back to the technicals, Tom. So you were pointing out with the Australian dollar. I want to go back to that for a second because I'm also interested. Personally, I'm looking for a breakout, like to the downside. The Aussie dollar, would you be looking for breakouts primarily, or would you rather wait for a pullback? What are you thinking?
So Aussie dollar, US dollar. Let's go back to the day chart. So once it comes back down to this level, yeah, and completes this range from here to here, it's all about what it does at this grey zone. If I start seeing a bullish push off of this level, then potentially, it could stay in this range. Yeah, potentially. But what we'll, bear in mind here is this is a downtrend into a range. So we are in a range, but my bias would still be to short it because we're still in this downward momentum. So yeah, if we got a break, of these lows through here, then yeah, I think there's room to the downside as well, especially if we look at the weekly chart as well. So if we look at the weekly chart, there's lots of room to move into. Yeah, if we start breaking these levels, there's nothing stopping us, apart from obviously big news, fundamentals, but technically speaking, that is free air down to these lows.
Sure. Yeah, and that could be an interesting play. What would probably entail would be, either a very quick tightening from the RBA, which I think is not necessarily likely, but could happen. Or the other side of it would be hawkishness from the Federal Reserve. Of course, we have meeting minutes here tomorrow, which could be market moving for the dollar, especially. I think, we're focusing a lot on the dollar here today just because of how impactful, tomorrow's Fed meeting minutes. It's going to be a big one because, again, it's going to set the outlook for where the Federal Reserve is at. A lot of people, there's a lot of mixed opinions, right? You have Jerome Powell, who actually is signaling more of a pause-oriented Fed. And then you have Bullard, who is coming out and saying, more rate hikes. So you have this mixed sentiment, which anytime you get mixed sentiment, even if you don't necessarily trade with fundamentals, I think one thing that you should pay attention to is that if you can sense compression on the fundamental story, what you can anticipate on the technicals is huge fundamental based breakouts. Because when you have really, really tight markets, like things are the very high strung and we're waiting on big decisions to be made, those big decisions are going to cause big spikes one way or the other. And a lot of times they can cause driving new trends. So for example, if we get something very hawkish from the Federal Reserve that breaks this dollar outside of that 103.6 level, it could just be a continuation move for the dollar that, the markets I don't think are necessarily, forecasting for. But again, that's where when you get the unexpected shift, that's where big trends can sort of form. I want to ask you, Tom and Frank, what are you guys' thoughts on gold here popping up today a little bit? Frank, what's your take on gold right now? I'd love to hear where you're at, either technically or anything else.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty bullish gold. I wasn't quite expecting a bounce here on this level because I wanted to get in lower on a long-term trend line test, but we might not see that. But I am bullish because I do think that the Fed's gonna pause, and really what's been happening recently with dollar strength is just the debt ceiling concerns, which ultimately is just gonna, kind of get resolved at some point. So I think gold is bullish, but I like to see it a little lower It might not go there, but we'll see. I do think a test will come up again to like the 2060s, 2070s range and test that all-time high again. So I like gold here.
It could be interesting to see how it reacts. I mean, we're getting a quick move off of this low around 1955. That level seems to be pretty strong from the bulls. The bigger question will be, as we trade higher, if we're able to break out, I mentioned this earlier, if we can get above that 1980, if we can start forming higher lows and breakouts, I think it could be an interesting move. And then, of course, on the flip side, if something unexpected happens tomorrow, if we get something more suddenly hawkish, which I'm in the same boat. I think that we probably are more oriented towards pause, which could leave upside to gold. If, however, we are wrong and we see something to the contrary, breakouts below could cause a bigger slip to the downside for gold. So I am cautiously watching as well. I don't have a trade open, but I'm looking for confirmation tomorrow. If we get a big break above that 1980, I'll personally probably be looking to start trying to find another gold long position. So that's where I'm at going into tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tom, what do you think? Gold, silver, any commodities that you're watching going into tomorrow?
Well, oil. Yeah, I've been looking at oil for some time. So if we get a break of this level that we're currently right at now, and we're getting a very bullish daily candle, and this also coincides with the correlation with Canadian dollar. So I'm looking at lots of Canadian dollar pairs to short, because that if oil is strong, then the Canadian dollar is strong. So I've been looking to short New Zealand Canadian dollar today, pound Canadian dollar, euro Canadian dollar. And obviously this oil idea supports that theory. So if we start getting a break of this level through here on oil, then yeah, I think great trade. Yeah, if we get a real bullish candle today that finishes something like this, I think buys back up to potentially, this very important level here for gold. I'd probably aim for 80 because I love a psychological number, but lots of room for this for this oil trade to move into if we get a break of these highs. So yeah, oil would be a real interesting one for me.
Can I add one more thing?
And go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, sorry. This applies to both commodities, like gold and oil. So I have been hesitant on gold because of smart money. I thought a test at that trend line would be promising, but also what's keeping me hesitant about taking a long trade is because of the weekly sentiment data is changing to the downside for most institutions. So in other words, they're letting go of long contracts while increasing the short positions. They're doing that for both gold and oil. For the past couple weeks, I think gold has been doing that. It might have been 2. I'm not sure for oil. I haven't been tracking it as closely, but this week you can clearly see a change in longs and shorts to a more bearish sentiment. Although it's still majority long, it looks like maybe things are starting to flip. But then again, you don't know if it's short-term profit taking or just setting up price for better discounts on price. But it's hard to tell. So that's also something to keep in mind if you're looking to trade gold or oil, just what smart money's doing and what they might continue to do.
Yeah, and Frank, also, I'll show you something. One thing that is a little bit concerning to me on oil, and granted, transparency, if I show you my screen, I am long oil. So this is something that we now have, to your point, for tracking something week to week. You mentioned you hadn't been keeping an eye on oil. I hadn't really either, but I'm looking at it now, and we've got that data with the recent updates that you and I worked on. The week-to-week data shows there has been a decline in long interest on oil over time. We're still, though, we're floating around 70%. And, perhaps this decline in recent weeks. This goes back from April of this year. Of course, this is when we started tracking, and the software has been building in this report. Oil has been declining in terms of COT long interest. However, I think much of this is probably due to a bit of recession concerns. And despite I think there is that possibility for a mild recession, it seems like you and I, Frank, especially, were on that more Fed is going to pause here, and we may have a mild recession. But again, when we talk oil, from fundamental perspective, the big question is all about the recession. Oil is incredibly sensitive to whether the recession is going to be prolonged and painful, or mild and short, or not even, depending on who you ask, existing or not, right? So I think there has been some decline, but still a high net long positioning, it seems, from this DOT non-commercial reporting. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, I think that, yes, we've declined, but we still have a pretty high long interest overall. And Tom, to your point, I think we're starting to see a bit of a breakout to the upside here. I already have a long position on, like I mentioned earlier in the stream. And as long as we're able to continue to stay above this, with tomorrow's meeting minutes, that will be impactful, right? Because, of course, what the Fed chooses to do with their monetary policy, whether they raise rates or not, is going to raise all sorts of red or green flags about recession probability, right? If they raise rates more, many people are going to be more concerned with the banking situation, with lending being, credit drying up. Those things can cause fear and recession, which could work against us on this long idea for oil. Whereas if we're more on what Frank and I have mentioned, potentially pausing from here, if we get confirmation on that side of it, oil could have a nice run alongside things like gold as well, with softer monetary policy. So there's a little bit of fundamentals breakdown, at least my take on it. Tom, what else? So we talked gold, we talked to oil, we talked a little dollar. Are you looking at any pound pairs right now?
Not well, a pound Canadian dollar. So I'm just waiting for this Canadian dollar strength to take hold, basically. And like I say, that corresponds with an increase in oil as well. But New Zealand Canadian dollar is one such trade. Yeah, I've just been looking, I've been dying to tell anyone who's listening about shorting this pair. And the reasons are this, so weekly I'm seeing this downward channel on the weekly chart with New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. Okay, so there's no, if we to follow this channel down, we've still got plenty of room to move into. So that's the weekly, a nice downward channel. And on the day chart, structurally for me, we are still in a downtrend. As soon as this low breaks here, I have just been waiting for a retrace and price to break down. I've been waiting for this for days, weeks. Yeah, and now it's finally seems to be breaking down. We'll see where this daily candle finishes. But if that oil, buying pressure can continue and that continues to go up, then there's no reason why the Canadian dollar can't have some, follow through strength as well on the back of that. And I'm seeing trades on lots of CAD pairs, potentially, back down to here, even back down to these lows. And you'll see this across lots of CAD pairs, pound CAD, euro CAD. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I'm looking at all CAD pairs at the moment.
Sure. Yeah, CAD an interesting currency right now, and like you mentioned, that correlation to oil could be an interesting play if you are, paying attention to the oil market. You can't really look at the CAD, the Canadian dollar, without keeping the tabs on what's going on with oil, because of course, for those of you guys who are newer to this stuff, Canada is a major exporter of oil. So of course, if you're the Canadians and you're seeing the price of oil suddenly jump in price, that means the stuff that you've got to sell suddenly just went up in value. Your economy just got stronger, and vice versa. If the price of oil is tanking, for lack of a better word, the pun intended kind of thing, right? If you've got oil tanking, it's going to also be hurtful to the Canadian economy. So an interesting point there for sure. Let's go back for a second here. and just take a quick look at where retail is positioned today. For those of you guys who are not familiar with retail positioning, what we are looking at here is we're just taking a look at a net by net basis. We can take a look at client positioning. We pull in some client data and we can see where traders are trading, right? Where are the average retail traders buying and selling? Now, I want to preface this with not all the time are retail traders wrong, but they're wrong often enough for us to pay attention to it. So we talk about, for example, if we're looking at the Euro USD right now, it seems like retail traders, well, not seems, but they are piling in to a long position on average. So they're very heavily buying things like the Euro USD. And Tom, you and I discussed the Australian dollar earlier in detail. Well, retail traders are taking the other side of the trade that we're thinking about, right? That short side. Retail traders are betting very heavily on the long side of the Australian dollar. Meanwhile, Tom made a great point talking about how on a longer term basis, it's in a downward trend. Sure, it's hitting near lower term support levels, so perhaps there's some room for a bounce. But the point is, it's in a downtrend overall, and retail traders have been very long biased on it for quite some time here. Same thing with the Kiwi against the US dollar. And you flip it around if you want to take a look at some things that retail traders are short on. They're shorting dollar yen. And many of you guys know dollar yen has been really strong. What you'll see here is a consistent theme in terms of retail positions. Generally speaking, they are going against strong moves in the market on a consistent basis. You almost don't even have to look at retail positioning to know generally what retail traders are doing. Once you've done this for a while, you realize basically when something is trending really strong, retail traders are taking the other side of that trade a lot of the time. Not always, but often enough that it's worth noting. So how does that matter to us? Well, if we look at a chart like dollar yen, and we say, well, retail traders are betting against this thing, right? That's, first of all, that's probably been a rough ride. If people have been shorting this whole thing as it just continues to trend higher, that's a tough journey. So, first of all, that's tough. But how do we play this? Well, in my opinion, buys on pullbacks are more natural here. Instead of trying to pray that this thing reverses, going with the flow, going with the trend is a key thing. So we keep tabs on that retail positioning. And if you guys do want to try out this tool for yourself, we mentioned this earlier, but in case you didn't see that message, if you guys want to try out our software for free, here is a link right now. You can send a direct message to our support reps. This is in the YouTube chat. And if you're watching this back at a later time, just head over to a1trading.com and you can click the live chat feature in the bottom right hand of the screen. So yeah, kind of an interesting spot to see where retail positioning is currently. Of course, we could also take a look while we're at it. We could just take a look at indices and commodities like gold and oil. And we could see that right now, gold and oil, they're pretty heavily long on both. So I'm actually in the retail crowd. Like I said, they're not always wrong, but they're wrong often enough that it's worth paying attention to and being cautious. It's not the only indicator that we pay attention to, but it's certainly a useful one. Indices, they still seem to be very net short, especially on things like the NASDAQ, where retail traders are at 67% short ratio. So yeah, again, try out our software if you'd like to check it out for yourself. And guys, this has been a great show, but before we go, I want to remind you guys to make sure to check out our guests. As always, here on the A1 Trading Show, we try and bring on commentators that add value to the show here each and every day, which is why we've brought Tom on to the show. If you have not already checked out Tom's YouTube channel, Simply Forex, here is the link. It's in the chat right now. Make sure to go subscribe. Go check out Tom. He's got great content of his own, and he's a regular contributor to the A1 Trading Show. Tom, thank you for coming on, as always, man.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Tom.
Good to see you. See you next week.
Good to see you too.
See ya. All right. And Frank, thank you as well for always coming on. You guys know where to find Frank. He's on this channel just about every single day. We are the A1 Trading team. We're trying to put out free content for traders. If you guys enjoyed today's show, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe. And again, try out our software if you'd like for free using the link that just got dropped in the chat. So thank you guys. See you, Frank. We'll see you guys all next time.
Bye.
Thanks again for watching today's show. Our goal at A1 Trading is to continue to share free value to our audience through daily videos and articles, keeping you up to date with the latest market coverage. If you enjoy our content, make sure to subscribe for more. And if you create a new trading account with ACAP, You can get tools like the EDGEFINDER completely for free. Check the link in the description for more information. From all of us at A1 Trading, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.